Fornhan.Ponsan, enroll now and become part of the story. Okay, it is now time for us to learn some words finally. But as much as one would like to just pick up a dictionary and read out of it, will that never give you the true comprehension of how magical language is used. We will start with the word I, a quite simple word that is highly complex in what it means. We see it as a given to understand the concept of an I, but in fact most magical beings don't have a concept of such. It is different what I means depending on who you are talking to, and we ironically lack the words to describe the lack of an I properly. You need to see I as a job that you occupy. I represents who you are, and therefore what you are to the person you are talking to. We will take the example of a Ratatoska for starters. What you need to know is that they are messengers. To them, a person talking to them that isn't a Ratatoska is most likely a customer. But then the question simply gets shifted to, what is a customer magical language? It is for this important to mention that while we say all use the same magical language, is that not true. The stems of words are the same, but how they get connected and used differs. Ratatoska are in the end squirrels, so they use words that are relevant for the life of one. Of course, due to Ratatoska being messengers, are there an exception that learns the different ways of speaking, but most magical beings don't, and for magic societies it's the same as humans. Some do, some don't. And while they cannot speak by our definition of speech, are they capable of writing, and the word for I for them is the same as for you. It is a word that expresses the someone who has business with Ratatoska. This in turn means that for them, I and you is the person receiving the message, and as it is up to them to find that person, do they see it as a missing person that should have gotten this message directly but couldn't. In magical language does this convert into olonalo. Olo coming from olon, a word you already know, heard more than once, as it is the same of olohan and olokon, and being just the word of life. Often, however, like here, is it also equivalent to person. Nalo then stems from finalo, which is the word of missing or absence. What we also know can perfectly show of this is how word order is relevant. While olonalo is a missing person, or for Ratatoska specifically the customer they are supposed to bring the message to, would Phenon instead be a person that has been lost, for example, when a boat capsizes? Where it may sound similar to say a missing person or a lost person, is the crux in the importance. In magic language, be it inside compound word or the sentence in its entirety, does the order of words show the relevance, and in what order they happen. If olon stands first, that means the person is the most relevant part, but if finalo stands first, it means that the act of them being lost is the most important part. A person can miss for many reasons, like they could have just voluntarily left for some reason, and in that case you wouldn't think, oh god, that person is gone, which is what you are applying by saying the missing part is the most relevant by saying it first. To this, however, are a few rules. First of all, some modifier words will always be first outside of trying to purposefully make some point out of saying them elsewhere. And then you would need to show by your speech that they don't belong to the word after them. Fi is one of those words. Fi, anything, simply implies a negative or denies something. Then there are importance words, who also get priority, but only while in compound words, but still after modifiers. A word like olon usually will be the first part of a word regardless. And I am aware of the irony that I taught you about word order with a word that usually doesn't follow the rules. Now, I simply chose I as one of the first words to choose because of its complexity. We will go over more complex words later on, but you need to first get on the right train of thought. While it is true that olonalo is I for Ratatoska, does this only apply to customers? As you will rarely be something else, will you mostly use this word with them, in scenarios where you are neither on the sending or receiving side of the message, but especially when referring to themselves to Ratatoska use another word for I, in the form of Sanram, which is far harder to pin down why they use this word. You can make it a thinking exercise for later on to come up with the explanation why they use the word sun, which means either colorful, multifaceted, or outside in a spatial sense, and the incredibly strange for herbivores to use biram, which means most often meat food, but can also mean animal. However, is for that the word olon usually used by herbivores. Ratatoska are also not the only ones using multiple I. It can go up to 6 forms of I. For example, are shears using olokon as I. That is only referring to the soul and therefore could never be used by humans, who lack the ability to control their olokon. We instead would use fikon as an I that is only existing within its olohan. But then they also use birkon as an aggressive version of I. But then if you want to be neutrally say I, it would be best to say ologo. As for shears, go not only refers to something strange, but also something different, and therefore they would never use ologo, as they are not different from themselves. And now where we are here, I guess I should also explain what olokon and olohan mean exactly, as they are such basic words that one easily falls into simply thinking of them as soul and body. The word olokon is made of olon and the word kon. Now, kon is a really strange word that doesn't have a good analog in our language, as it is a non-spatial inside. This means that olokon means a metaphorical life inside you. As we have no magic, can we not perceive olokons, not even our own, but as magical creatures have chosen this word for what we would call soul, would that imply that the soul is not inside you? Kon is a type of word you will simply need to get a feel for what it truly means, but that is not the case for Gohan. The body Olohan is made again of Olon, but now also Gohan. Now, in its own is Gohan the ground, and more often than not the ground you are standing on instead of the ground of the earth. But inside of a word is it also representing the material world. Most any word with Gohan or Kon can be inverted by using the other. It is always important to understand a word over knowing the exact translation. The reason why shears don't use Olohan for I when they use Olokon is because they are pure Olokon beings. For them the word Gohan has little meaning, so the word Olohan doesn't describe what they mean, and therefore they refrain from using it. The same is also true in the other direction. Ratatoska use Olonalo for customer, but if you didn't know that, you would hear it as missing person. In that case, do you need to reason what the word would mean to them? This also means that words can change meaning when you speak to a stranger over someone you know. If you were to be friends with Ratatoska, would they not see you as Olonalo? So in that case, they use that word no longer. This then even is true if you are their customer, except then if it is about an unknown person on the other half of the delivery. You may not be Olonalo, but the person sending or to be delivered to still is.